earlier you said, according to the Buddhist philosophy, karma is almost like a bucket which is being carried from one to the other, which means who is one and who is the second one, who is the third one?
Each moment, it's as if we're a different person. That there's no permanence to the personality. There's no permanence to the body. It's constantly changing. Even the mind and the sense of I, sense of this lower self, who we are, is constantly undergoing change. So we can see it either as one thing undergoing change, or like in movie theater, each one is a separate individual cell, and it goes fast enough so it looks like it's one continuous thing.
So
the Buddhists give this example of if you have a torch and you swing it around, it'll look like it's a circle without a break. But at each time, it can only be at one point at one time. So there is no real continuity. If we think even thought, we talk about a stream of thought, but really it's one following another, and each one is connected to the other with some kind of karmic connection.
So are they denying the existence of an individual identity or individual soul?
Yes, especially the southern schools, Theravada, Sri Lanka, and those, they deny that. Yeah, so they have this doctrine of non-self. Because when Buddha was asked about these things, he didn't give any answer. Do you believe in the self? He remained silent. So are you saying there's no self? He remained silent. So some of them thought that he was completely denying it. Others in Vedanta will say that he was denying the reality and substantiality and eternal nature of the jiva, individual soul. Vedanta also will say that this individual soul is a composite, that the element of continuity comes from this witnessing aspect, the Atman, which is watching.
Who is witnessing?
It's not a who. The Atman is impersonal. The witness identifies with the lower self, and this ego sense emerges. And we identify with that. That's who I am. My sense of I. There's a deeper sense of I that comes just from, I know that I exist. I am. We can feel that in deep meditation, independent of the mind and personality and everything. So there's a very essential difference between this school of Buddhism and the Vedanta school. So they speak in very paradoxical terms. I like it. It's interesting. They'll say that there's a path, but no traveler on the path. And the path leads to nirvana, but there's no traveler on the path. But we think that there is. Not that much different from Advaita Vedanta, which will also say that this jiva is ultimately seen, if we think the jiva is an individual soul, ultimately seen to be really just the ocean. It's appearing to be a wave in the ocean, but the wave has no ultimate reality, just name and form. It's only the ocean that way. These are all different theories. We don't have to bother too much about them.
So the individual karma does not have any significance in this theory?
No, it does. The individual karma is the important element of it. The individual karma is what determines who we are as a person, the personality. The apparent self or the lower self, that's dependent upon what we do and what we experience and what we think and what we learn and our culture, what we bring from a previous lifetime, samskaras, if we believe in that theory, what we get through our parents, our families, through schools, all of that. Everything helps shape and form the personality. And from second to second, that bundle of karma gets passed on and passed on and passed on and passed on. How we understand it, there are two different theories, that's all. But there's no law that says that we can't direct it and change it. This is where that little bit of free will comes in. So Swamiji says, if today I'm the result of everything I did in the past, then I can change my future by changing my behavior now. So if we see that we have a certain tendency to anger or something, we can work with it. We can deal with it and work on it and slowly change This is what we're trying to do in spiritual life. It's not simply that we're trying to have some breakthrough and some realization and everything. We're also trying to purify the self. We're trying to eliminate these tendencies that we have, which really make us suffer. It's not that they're evil or sinful or anything like that, but we suffer because of this bondage to these lower to the passions and our desires, and this desire for people to praise us and to have power over other people. All of these, they're very negative things. And people who have them, they may become wealthy, they may become powerful, but they won't be happy people. So if we recognize that this is the bondage, this is where the karma comes in. I may still say, I know that I'm not that. I know I'm something different from this body and mind, but this mind is the thing that will help us with God really. That's the instrument that has to be tinkered with. We have to get rid of all the kinks and things, and all the things that are preventing us from having some higher experience. Yeah, so that's where the karma comes in, with the apparent self.
Thank you.
Yes, behind you. Seema?
The way I understand it is karma is created by both physical action, thought, and everything. Is there, my understanding is that the thought, let's say a negative thought, generates a certain amount of karma, negative karma. Is that less than the physical action of a bad karma? I mean, that's how I'm thinking. Let's say, just to throw in the example of, you actually murder somebody. That's like a heavy duty bad karma. The thought that, oh, that could kill us, but just the thought of it, is that a lesser karma, or is it as bad as the physical action? Because everything adds to your karma.
The whole concept of psychological karma will be based almost entirely on intention. Right? Suppose we have a good intention, we want to help somebody, and it backfires. So from that psychological point of view, there won't be any negative thing that takes place. Now, the other side of the karma theory, that there's some metaphysical element to it, this is speculative. This we don't really understand. Sri Ramakrishna gives one example. It was a very difficult example to understand. He says that a man is walking down the road with some cattle with him. He gets very tired and he wants to stop at this place. And the man there takes pity on him. He gives him something to eat and something to drink and everything. And the man continues on his way, and he takes the cattle to be slaughtered. He said, now, sin of slaughtering the cattle, part of it will go with that man who helped him to do that. Now, the reason he says that, not because whether it's literally true, we don't know. It's Gahana Karmano Gati. Gita says it's very mysterious, the ways of karma. But what his point is that the only way to avoid the effects of karma is to be detached. If we do something without the feeling that I'm doing a good thing, I'm going to help somebody, or even without the feeling I'm the agent of action, or we do everything as an offering, we don't do it with any idea that I'll get some merit from it. If we're free from all of that, then this karma is not supposed to cling to us at all. That's the reason for saying that. Yeah, we actually have three different types of karma. There's a certain type of karma. This goes back to the old Vedic tradition again. That we do yajna. Then this yajna is to say for going to heaven. So we get a certain type of punya. Punya is a type of karma that can only be spent in the next another loka. So do certain types of meritorious deeds, whether the psychological karma is there or not. Certain types of meritorious deeds are supposed to give us a certain type of punya, which will allow us to go, and Gita says, Surendra Loka, some divine realm, and it's if we're given some coupons. And these coupons can only be used in this one hotel, and once you're finished with all the coupons, then you leave. So then it's wiped off. Then we don't worry about it. It has no effect on the next life. All of the other things determine the next life. So this is one type of karma. Then the other, suppose we do something that will not give any effect in this lifetime. When we're reborn, it'll have some effect. So if this is how they explain that if we do something bad to somebody, we break somebody's leg, we'll be born with a limp. All sorts of theories like that. And then the other one, of course, is the one that we understand. It makes 100% sense that whatever we do will leave some impression on the mind. And that we can understand that our personality, our makeup, is based on our past experience, not just the things that we did, but the intention that we had, the type of psychological effect it had on us, whether it was a traumatic thing. Some things we do, they don't leave much of a mark. Some things are very traumatic and they remain with us, and they give us fears and phobias, all sorts of things like that. Whether it translates into the next life, that's all the mysterious part of the whole thing. But the psychological doctrine of karma, to me, is more important, because that's verifiable. That is a very high degree of common sense with that one, that we can really see how much affected we are by the things we do, by the company that we keep, the books we read, the entertainment that we have, especially holy company. So we can, this is why the effect of holy company is so strong. It'll leave a very deep samskara. When we see a great soul who has attained this degree of freedom and joy and everything, it leaves a very deep impression on the mind. And certain types of spiritual experiences, going to pilgrimage, all of these things. So this karma can change very gradually, or it can be very dramatic sometimes. We see some people in their lifetime, they'll have some experience, and we'll think, where did that come from? This person wasn't at all religious before, and now the whole day they're spending meditation and everything. So we don't know what's behind things. Thakur gives another nice illustration. He says that people were walking together, and they saw one man in the morning, and he took one drink, and then they say he's singing and dancing like a drunkard. So they said, how is it possible that he took one drink? And then the other friend said, you don't know, he's been drinking all night long. Yeah. So we only see what we've done in this lifetime. We don't know what's behind it, what came before that at all. So yeah, to answer your question, it's very hard to say. Suppose we, with all good intention, we try to do something, or suppose, God forbid, that we're driving down the road and we make a turn and we don't realize we caused somebody to spin off the road and that they died in a car accident, and we don't even know it. So how can there be any karmic effect psychologically? There won't be anything. But is there some other type of metaphysical doctrine that said, well, you were the cause of that, there has to be some result? We don't know. It's very hard to say. The Buddhists have so many interesting things. There will be verses like, because there's so much against this, killing of animals and things, that if you kill a rabbit, you'll be born the same number of times as there are hairs on the body of that rabbit. They're very detailed types of things. Yeah.
Definitely, there are so many rabbits.
Or so many Buddhists.
So I have two questions. The first one is, when in the beginning of the discourse you mentioned there are three prerequisites for a spiritual.
Yes.
One was the intention for liberation, the desire for liberation.
Yes, Mamukshvatvam.
And what was the second one?
Manushyatvam, human birth. Now the reason they emphasize that is that if we're born in a lower birth, animal birth, something like that, that we don't have the degree of free will to really make too much change to this karmic connection. So the idea is that if one goes through a lifetime as one particular animal or something, that automatically they jump to the next. Everything is one after another, till the human birth. Then the human birth is element of freedom comes in. Then we have some say, and then we can have some realization. If we're reborn as a god, Deva, then we simply enjoy the fruits of our past life. We also can't realize God. We simply spend this punya at that time. So they say it's only this human birth where we have this opportunity to have some realization and to attain that state of freedom and liberation.
So the three steps you mentioned is the desire for liberation, mumukshutvam, manushyatvam.
Yes.
And the third one was
Mahapurusha Samshrayaha.
Okay.
We take refuge with a great soul.
Okay.
It means we have somebody who is our ideal in life, represents a guru for us, or where we come to these realm of Ramakrishna or something. We accept that ideal, something that represents a very high ideal for us. If it can be that direct touch of the guru, then that's considered best.
And one quick question, and apologize if I'm redundant, but this is a little bit logical question in that regard. Let's say you mentioned about some Buddhist school of thought and Advaita Hindu school of thought. Okay. So, for instance, there are two circles. One is Buddhist circle, one is Hindu circle. In Buddhist circle, someone takes 100 baths. In Hindu circle, someone takes 100 baths. In that 100 baths, in the Hindu philosophy so far, what I understand, let's say my Atma right now is X. And so during all that 100 things, X will keep on going through all these things. But X will remain accountable, whatever he did in first 35 lives, he is accountable in 36. He'll reap fruits of it or he'll pay a price for it. And then he'll keep on moving. But the X remains set. Our Antaratma is individualistic. Versus the Buddhist thought you mentioned about in that whole circle, if that X becomes Y, becomes Z, then he's not accountable for his merits and demerits. So it does not make sense that after his death, if everything is gone in his new life, then how would he be accountable? He's a completely brand new Atma, brand new body. My question makes sense?
Yeah, it's not such a stark difference as you're making it, because it's really just, I mean, I could also say that I'm a completely different person than I was when I was growing up. Completely different. My goals in life are different, everything is different. So we can take it in that way, not so much as a metaphysical position, but we recognize that we're constantly changing. They emphasize that more, the element of change. Now the Advaitic position is that, and really Vedanta position we can say, is that what is going from taking one body, going to another body, is what's called the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body. And we're not bringing in this Atman or anything like that. That this mind, which will contain the samskaras and everything, will continue in a subtle state, and when the new body comes, that's what will be the connecting link from one life to another life to another life. What we call the jiva is simply the light of the Atman shining on this and dwelling within as the witness and identifying with it. So the Advaita will also not talk about the permanent, unchangeable nature of the jiva. The jiva is just a provisional idea, because in that ultimate state of realization, the jiva realizes that there's no jiva. It is only the Atman. So it's a very tricky proposition. When Swamiji talks about the two birds, so you know this parable, that the two birds on the tree. It's from Mundaka Upanishad. That there's a bird on the lower branches that's hopping around eating the fruit, and there's a bird at the top of the tree who's simply watching. And the bird at the top of the tree is very peaceful, calm, majestic. And the lower bird is eating fruit. Some of the fruits are very sweet, and then some are bitter. When it eats a bitter fruit, it looks up and sees the bird at the top and thinks, oh, how peaceful, not doing anything, sitting there, and hops up a little higher, then forgets. And the same thing goes on over and over again, till that bird goes higher and higher and higher. Then Swamiji says that as the lower bird goes higher and higher, it starts to feel its individuality melt away and feels itself emerging in the upper bird. Then he says a very interesting thing, he doesn't say that the lower bird merges in the upper bird, and the upper bird realizes that it was seeing a reflection of itself, and identifying with that and thinking it to be separate. So, the individual jiva is striving for liberation, and liberation means the realization that there's no individual jiva. This is paradoxical, but sometimes truth is best expressed in paradox.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the Advaita position. The Ramanuja Madhva, the vast majority of Hindus in India will accept some type of qualified non-dualism or dualism, and there'll be some belief that yes, there isn't, the individual jiva is real, and it persists, and it goes from birth to birth, and will persist even in that state of liberation. It'll be purified, and there'll be no karma left for it to be reborn. Very common idea. It's not as scientific or philosophically pleasing as Advaita Vedanta, but for the devotee, it's a nicer idea. They prefer that. And the philosophical school that we accept is usually based on what we like, and not so much on very hard, dry reasoning, what makes the most sense.